TGCRequiem here. We are playing Burn today. Little something different. Not normally much of a Burn player, but I only have a little bit of time to record, and so I thought I would try and do a Burn one, something I've been wanting to do. Borrowed a couple cards from my friend, but overall the deck's pretty cheap. Put it together, played maybe 7 or 8 matches, so I'm not going to be playing optimally, but I am playing what I believe the best version of Burn is, which is Boros Burn. And part of the reason I think that's the best version, part of it's because I have 2 friends who play it, and they believe this, but also because all of my statistics show that Boros Burn is a lot harder to beat in my matchup history, at least when compared to like the Nakatl Burns and things like that. So this looks like a great hand. Your creature. And we have 2 lands. We have the ability to go creature, creature, creature. So I think we're going to keep this. Again, far from a Burn expert. I hope these videos offer my buddies some grand amusement. So if I were going to hold anything up, I might play like the Scalding Tarn just to maybe make the opponent think that we're on something other than Burn, but since we're leading out with Goblin Guide, there's really not a whole lot to hide. Spire Bluff Canal. So some sort of Jeskai deck looks like. So I think since we are playing a deck that probably has access to white, since we saw them pitch a Celestial Colonnade, they may be running Path, and so we want to keep our mountains in hand. They're also probably not going to be putting a ton of pressure on us too quick. So I think I'd rather lead out with the Inspiring Vantage than fetch for another shock. Even though that does thin, and over the course of a game, actually maybe that... again, being that they're not going to be putting as much pressure on us, it's probably better actually just to thin and give ourselves the best odds over the long game. And because we don't expect them to do too much pressure to us, we're going to get another Foundry. So the opponent will be drawing a Snapcaster Mage. They're going to fetch that away, so they must feel that that's too slow. And I would expect a Path based on the upright. So again, just more ways to kind of thin the deck here. I think we're going to kind of do the same thing with the Mire here. We just, again, are trying to thin out our deck as much as possible. Wait for our opponent to act first, get the damage in, and I kind of just plan to So they very well could be holding up Spell Snare, and so I don't want to just jam this in for no reason. I think we're just going to take our 1 point of damage, try and hit our opponent on their end step. You know, we can get extra prowess points, but being that they probably are holding up counter spells. Okay. So I do feel safe fetching for a stomping ground here. Man, we are just flooding out pretty hard. There's not a whole lot we can do against this. We could try and attack with the Swift Spear and Skullcrack, but it doesn't really do a whole lot unless we get our opponent to not block. If our opponent blocks, we have to fire off the Skullcrack then, or else we'll lose the Swift Spear. So I actually am just going to hold up mana here. And then if our opponent goes for any sort of life gain, we'll Skullcrack then. Try and set up a situation later where we can maybe kill the Spell Queller. Eidolon of the Great Revel. So this seems decent. Probably going to get some sort of counter spell here, but I don't know if there's much value in waiting for it. I'll try and start burning through some of their cards. So we're going to get a Cryptic. Nope, Logic Knot. Okay, so this is this newer Jeskai build that has shown some popularity since the GP. We've seen 9 lands. We've thinned 9 lands out of our deck so far. Going for more. Unfortunately, we don't have anything we can even do with the Scalding Tarn. I think at this point we're kind of almost just wanting to build up a handful of resources. I may play the Vintage, Inspiring Vantage next turn. So I'm assuming this is going to be a Snap Bolt and then bolting the Monastery Swift Spear. We're probably on our way to a loss here. And we were on the play. Man, talk about just really poor draws. Isn't a whole lot more you can say about it. Our opponent has us on a 3-turn clock. What is the best we could do here? I don't even think we could. Like, Eidolon could do recurring amounts of damage. I mean, even if we draw spells, I guess we need Boros Charm to potentially beat our opponent's clock. Well, no, now 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, no. So we're done. Let's just see what we draw. We draw a loss. I think a burn deck basically primarily wants to be in the 3 land range. So again, way more lands than we wanted to see there. So I don't think Okay, so core Firewalker might be worth considering. Searing Blaze could be okay. We saw a few creatures. I don't know that I want to overload on Searing Blaze, however. What is a Jeskai control deck going to bring in against us? I can't imagine they're going to bring in a Leyline. I don't know that Molten Rain is... You know, part of the reason they play Jeskai is to have the most efficient spells. Molten Rain could be okay, but I don't know. It seems like a trap to me. I think we want Eidolon still for sure. Possibly a Lava Spike. I guess maybe one Eidolon. I don't know. Eidolon seems good, right? Alright. So we're moving on to game 2 here. Trying to decide if I even actually drew 20 points worth of damage that last game. So we'll be on the play again. 3 lands is more than we ideally want, but I still think this is a totally keepable hand. Again, we'll lead on Goblin Guide, as Goblin Guide is the best creature in the deck. Opponent gets a Dispel, that's important to know. Can play around that with Lava Spike next turn. Looks like the mana woes continue. I think I'm actually going to go for a Stomping Ground here. Again, trying to thin the deck out some. We know our opponent has a Dispel that we're going to have to play around. Next turn we'll probably just plan to play the Sacred Foundry sideways. I really don't want to, again, fetch for the basics unless necessary. We can always play the Bloodstained Mire out later. Maybe save it for a Searing Blaze. So this gives us a window to resolve. My God, my goodness. Gives us a window to resolve the instant. And of course, having not very much experience with burn, I sit here and I think, well, maybe 20 lands is too much, but I have so few. The opponent doesn't crack their fetch. If they cracked their fetch, we could have Skull cracked right there. As it is, we're just going to try and set up a turn with a flurry of spells. Try and power through all of the all of the counter magic that they have. So hopefully our opponent's getting a little bit of a feeling like, who knew? Our opponent is just, or oh yes, our opponent is just drawing lands. While that is partly true, this will hopefully get us to a spot where we can jam through a bunch of spells here at once. So we're going to do this before our turn. If we can resolve 2 of these spells, all we have to do is draw a creature, basically. I think if they let this one resolve, though, I think I'll wait another turn before we go any further. Okay, so actually Cryptic Command, counter draw. This is great. So we're going to just go ahead and Skullcrack here. And this makes us actually live with Shard Volley to draw a Monastery Swift Spear. Of course, we drew a land, to everyone's surprise. Of course, we probably shouldn't have played that land out. Savvy opponent probably knows that that's about all the fetchable lands that are out there. So they're going to get a Lightning Helix here. Actually, what we should have done was played Shard Volley. I guess it doesn't really matter because we know the opponent has a Dispel, and so if we tried to throw the Shard Volley in response to the Lightning Helix, it wouldn't have really mattered. Turn too late. I think we kind of want to let our opponent attack with their Snapcaster Mage. We don't want to have to waste anything trying to get through it. They probably have another one in hand to block the Swift Spear anyway. Oh my gosh, I just want to concede. Yep, there's just no coming back from this at this point. They're going to be able to attack for 4 plus the Colonnades 4, 8, so that's lethal. Suppose we could throw a Shard Volley at a Snapcaster. Oh, we didn't have to do that. Yeah, game over. Well, I tell you what Burn is really good at. It's really good at drawing lands. Alright, well, we're still going to do the whole league out, so if you want to watch more, part of the reason I'm playing the deck is to just try and get a better feel for Burn and how the game looks from the Burn player's perspective, and that way I just hope to gain some information that will be useful when I play my other matchups, so when I play against Burn. So I'm hoping to just kind of get a better feel for it, and we'll have some more matches shortly.